from the All Indiana Podcast Network.
It's time for real conversation about the real issues that affect our communities.
Poverty, education, equality, and more.
This is Real Talk.
Real Talk with Rev Charles Harrison.
Welcome to Real Talk on the All Indiana Podcast Network. I'm Rev Charles Harrison, and on this episode, I will be talking to Rev James Jackson, who is one of the mayoral candidates for Mayor of Indianapolis in 2023. Welcome. This is Real Talk with Rev Charles Harrison, and thank you so much for joining me today on my podcast. I have a special guest with me today and a good friend who has decided to run for Mayor of Indianapolis. Reverend James W. Jackson, who is the pastor of Ferverent Prayer Church on the far east side. I have been knowing him for years now, and I certainly want to welcome him to the show today and ask him the question, one of many, what prompted him to run for mayor of Indianapolis? So he's in the studio with me. Welcome, Pastor Jackson. How are you doing?
Doing great. Good to be here with you, Reverend Harrison, and happy holidays to you.
Same to you and your family. Now, listen, we're kind of on the reverse side of the mics because normally you're on this side doing the interview with me. So, there's a welcome change.
I'm off the air now.
Okay.
I'm off the air while I'm running for mayor. So,
well, let's talk a little bit about that. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself before we get into a lot of the questions about why you have decided to run for mayor.
Well, thank you. I am James Jackson, James W. Jackson. Lived in Indianapolis since I was 11 years old. Father moved us here from Muncie, Indiana.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was born in Jeffersonville, Kentucky.
Okay, Jeffersonville, Kentucky.
Exit 0.
Wow. Jeffersonville, Kentucky, and I'm born in Jeffersonville, Indiana.
Yeah. So, and my father, of course, I don't remember that because my father moved us to Indiana.
Okay.
And I was newborn. But at 11, he moved us to Indianapolis and grew up in Indianapolis, graduated from Northwest High School, which is now junior high school, I think. And started our church on the west side of Indianapolis on West 14th Street. And then moved out to the far east side of Indianapolis. We started in April 1995. And about 3 years later, we moved out to the far east side. We were blessed with some land out there. And have been working in the community for a good number of years. Went to IWU and graduated in 2016 with a master's in divinity and just finished up coursework this year to earn a doctorate in transformational leadership.
Amen.
Yeah, so
Amen.
What they call ABD, which is all but dissertation.
Okay, yes.
So working on that. And the church I pastor will be 28 years old next year and have just been involved in the community. We started the Clean for Green program many years ago, 2012.
I think that's when I met you, somewhere around 2012. Yes.
Yeah. In fact, you connected me with the West Side pastors.
Yes.
So thank you for doing that. And we had a citywide effort going with regard to reducing crime and employing young people and mentoring young people. And we did it very, very successfully. And my interaction with 10 Point increased from there. I was on the board
right
for some time, and we were able to do a lot of great work together, and I thank God for that. So
you had, I'm trying to remember, at one time, did you have close to 500 kids?
Yes, we had 500, maybe a little more than that. Which were about 26 zip codes.
Okay.
Around Marion County.
Wow. Wow.
And Chief Height, you remember, was
Right.
the chief then. And he said that year, which was, I think, 2015, we had almost no juvenile crime. That program, incidentally, is now known as Project Indy.
Okay.
We still have it, but the model that we have was used to build out Project Indy, which is something that young people can use to even this day.
Okay. So, how involved was you prior to 2012 in the community? Was you actively involved? Because it seemed like I met you a few years prior to that.
Yeah, concerned clergy.
Okay.
I was involved and would go to different meetings. And COP was organized, I think, back then.
Yes.
Council of Presidents.
Yes.
So I would go, and you, of course, were part of that in the leadership of it, and just started following the work that you all do. And then we kind of became friends back then, and then you came out to see about the youth jobs program that we were doing.
Yes.
And we had you as a speaker, and then you told me about some pastors on the west side, and we went from 25 kids a week to 100 kids a week.
Okay.
After that introduction. And then it was 200 a week. And by 2015, it was 500.
Yes.
And we said, wow, it's too many. It wasn't too many kids.
Right.
We just didn't have all of the human resources to manage it. Because it wasn't that we didn't have enough young people. It was just volunteers to help look after that many young people was a challenge. Although we had a lot of pastors who were helping to do that.
Yeah, it was, and I thought it was such a good program, and really helping to, address one of the issues that, groups like 10 Point felt like was a concern, which was lack of employment opportunities, particularly for our most at-risk, youth in the city, particularly youth of color. So I found it fascinating that you were doing the program and providing, money the day of, for young people to, to put in their pocket. And we felt like that certainly reduced youth crime and robberies because they had some spending money.
Yeah, especially out, on the Far East Side.
Right.
And of course, the young people would go to the various businesses around there, and that was helping to help the businesses in that area, because the kids would have $25 and they go eat or buy something. Some of them would save it, but it was helping a lot of young people out. So we still have the program going. It's under another organization now, but it's still a wonderful program.
So what from that kind of community work you was doing, with the Clean for Green, the work you were certainly doing at your church, what kind of led you down the political path?
Public safety.
Public safety, okay.
Yeah, I have a passion for public safety. Even before I got involved in community work, this was back when you had newspapers. Of course, they still have the paper newspaper that you can get. But, of course, back then we didn't have all of the different things that were accessible in the internet. So I would get these newspaper clippings of different things that were going on, groups that were meeting to talk about it. I would start going to some of those meetings, and I would see you in a lot of those meetings, and trying to figure out how we could fix it. And that's what drew me to 10 Point, and subsequently got me into concerned clergy. From there, I met quite a few people. Of course, there's trustee Vernon Brown now. Back then, he was Counselor Brown.
Okay.
And wanted me to be on the board of public safety, because a lot of people wonder about my experience.
Right.
And he got me on the board of public safety. But by then, Mayor Ballard had won the election, and Olgen Williams was the first vice president of the concerned clergy, and Reverend Dinkins was the president. And so Mayor Ballard asked Olgen Williams to be his deputy mayor of neighborhoods. So I was treasurer of Concerned Clergy back then, and Olgen Williams he called me and said, "Hey, the mayor wants you to be on the Indianapolis Police Merit Board." A lot of people think that the merit board is just for firing police officers.
Right.
That's not all of the responsibility. It's disciplinary actions when it comes to police officers, but it's the governing body for the police department where professional standards are concerned, hiring police officers, and we certainly hired a whole lot more police officers than we terminated.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are police officers get terminated for different things that happen. So a lot of people think that that never happens, but it does. And so from there, I spent 4 years on that board. And then after that...
So what was the experience like for you being on the merit board? I remember when you was appointed, and I remember there was some concern about the makeup of the merit board after the Brandon Johnson incident with the police officers, which, there's a lot of conversation about making sure the merit board was more reflective of the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the mayor has 4 appointments.
Okay.
The FOP has 2, and then the council has 1. That was how it was set up back then. I think it's still that way. And so I was one of the mayor's appointments. I think he had to have 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans.
Okay.
That he appointed to the board. So it was a great experience. I learned a lot about how public safety works in the city of Indianapolis. And I learned a lot about police officers. I learned a lot about public defenders and all the things that go around all of that. And so it was a great experience. And I believe it was God who put me in that place to prepare me for what I'm going into now. And currently I'm a commissioner on the Indiana Civil Rights Commission.
Okay. This is Rev Harrison, and I am with Rev James Jackson, and talking about him running for mayor. Let's talk a little bit about that. What caused you to want to run for mayor? What was the factors that led to you declaring running for mayor? And I think the second part of that, running for mayor as a Republican.
Yeah, that's a big question.
Yeah, that's a big question. Yeah, the second one's the big question.
Yeah. Well, the first part of it, again, is the public safety, my passion for. I believe that we can fix it. Public safety is job one. Everything that we want in Indianapolis swings on the hinges of public safety.
Okay.
It is so important. And so we have seen it fixed. I wasn't part of the 1990s fix. Of course, you're aware of that.
Right.
Where it got better because of some things that folks were doing. And then in the mid-2000s, where we had, I think it was 2009, 10, 11, and 12, where homicides were under 100. So what's unique about Indianapolis is that other cities, some have been able to fix it, but most of the cities are struggling trying to figure out a way, but we've done it twice.
Right.
So that's the first part of it. And God putting it in my heart to not only be a part of that fix going forward, but having been part of it and success. And we all together, through collaborative efforts, community policing, were able to do it. The second part of it, with regard to political party, with the Ballard administration and working with his administration for as long as I did, also years ago I went to a conference and they were talking about voting your values. And I think this was in Detroit, Michigan, and I never knew about that, voting your values. And they introduced us to a website called ontheissues.org. And you could go there and you could see all the candidates on the federal, state level, and I think some local offices, local races. And you could learn about the person, see where they voted, on the issues, which direction they went in. And so I, started voting my values, and then I did extensive research, deep dive on the Republican Party and what it meant to be a conservative. What does it mean to be a liberal? We hear these terms, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, moderate Democrat, so on and so forth, left, right. But a lot of times people, like myself back then, I didn't know what all that meant in definition, but I've always been sort of a etymologist, kind of wanting to know what words mean.
Yep.
And so I went and did my own study on all of that, and discovered that I was more conservative. And so people would tell me, if you're interested in politics, because I didn't just wake up 3 weeks ago and say, hey, I'm going to run for mayor. This has been something for probably the last 5 years.
Okay.
Probably a little more than 5 years, actually. But the last 3 years, I've been preparing my congregation for it and my leadership team.
Okay.
But I would, they would always say, well, run in the party you can win in, which meant to me, if you're a Republican, you can't run as a Republican and win. You got to run as a Democrat, being black, and then you can win. But I didn't want to be a hypocrite. If I'm a Republican, if that's where my values are, if that's where my beliefs are, then that's what I'm going to do. And if it's God's will for me to win, fine. If not, I go do something else.
What have been some of the barriers, the challenges that you have experienced, being a black Republican? The majority of black Americans are Democrats, and certainly sometimes black Republicans sometimes are isolated, attacked, because they're voting against what some black leaders believe against their people. So what have you experienced, being a Republican and now announcing that you're going to be running for mayor as a Republican?
Well, years ago, it used to be worse than it is now.
Okay.
I haven't experienced too much negativity.
Okay.
There have been some people who deleted me as a friend on Facebook.
Okay.
There's been some people who stopped interacting with my personal page. But I think because Reverend Harrison, I've been involved in the community for so long.
Right.
That people are more amenable to the whole idea of supporting James Jackson.
Okay.
Because I had a lot of people saying, hey, I'm going to split my ticket.
Okay.
I was in the Starbucks on Washington Street today, and the lady said, I saw something about on the news about you. She didn't even say running for mayor. She just said, I saw something on the news about you, and I'm supporting you.
Okay.
So they could have been taking me to jail. I don't know what it was.
You don't know what it was.
But I'm supporting you, and that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even know what it...
Right.
So I've gone in there a lot, and so they perceive, hey, this is a guy that I would support. And that's very encouraging. And so all the people that I've been talking to and a lot of the people that responded on Facebook said they were going to split the ticket.
Okay.
And vote for me. They might vote for, they might vote Democrat down everything else.
Right.
But where James Jackson is concerned, they plan to vote for me.
Okay. So what is your platform? What are the things you want to focus on and do if you are elected mayor of Indianapolis?
Well, when I'm elected, I'm focused on peace.
Okay.
That's my word.
Okay.
And that's something I think almost everybody wants is peace, based on what we see now and everything that's happening. And that I'm using it as an acronym for public safety, education, achievement, community, and economic development.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about those and elaborate on those for those who are listening?
Yeah, and I have that set up as an outline, and my plan is to have people and groups that I'm listening to and talking to flesh that out. So
Okay.
I don't want to come out and say,
right,
I'm doing all of this and I haven't had the community input to flesh it all out. But but I have come out with the James Jackson Peace Plan and the P, where public safety is concerned, to take a look at the programs that we are funding, to make sure that what we call evidence-based programs actually have evidence that they are preventing crime. I think that's very, very important. Also, taking a look at the criminal justice system. I think yourself, Rick Snyder, and others, in fact, Chief Taylor acknowledged last year, toward the end of the year, he did an interview and said that repeat violent offenders, early releases, is a problem.
Right.
And that's what he said.
Right.
And I couldn't find it, but I think Prosecutor Mears acknowledged the same thing. But at least the chief of police had indicated back then that it's a problem, and so we need to go in and take a look at that and see how we can solve that problem, and say, well, if that is contributing to the high number of homicides, then we could see almost an immediate improvement by making sure that people who are not ready to get out, that they don't get out until they have gotten the right treatment, until they are ready to get back into the community and not be a harm or danger to people in the public or to themselves.
This is Real Talk with Reverend Charles Harrison, and my guest today is Reverend James Jackson, who is running for mayor as one of the candidates on the Republican side. What do you think, after almost 7 years now, what is the city doing right and what is the city doing wrong in your eyes that's probably leading you to want to run for mayor and tackle that issue of public safety?
Well, I think the city has done some right things.
Okay.
Because we have seen some improvement. But these are things that we said that needed to be done 7 years ago.
Right.
6 years ago, 5 years ago. And there's documentation that shows several of us leaders saying, if you do this, it'll make a difference if you do this. So some of the improvement that we've seen this year is the administration maybe not acknowledging it, but taking the ideas and some of the strategies that we had,
right,
and using it,
right,
and now it's working,
right,
because it works. But why did we have to wait 7 years to do it? Why did we have to lose so many lives? And just over the last, this would be the third year of over 200.
Right.
So just in 3 years, you're talking about over 600 people, well over 600 people who are dead, and we're talking about hundreds of people who were shot. And when you think about those families, and I saw on Facebook there was a young mother who was holding her son's hand and his face all bandaged up. He had been shot in the face. And we don't often see that of a non-fatal, where families have to take care of people because they have debilitating injuries and all these different kinds of things. It didn't have to be that way if the administration had taken wise counsel early on. So while they're doing some things that are right now that may even result in some improvement next year, and they're talking about and celebrating those improvements, and I think that's great. But people need to understand that this administration could have prevented the loss of the lives of a lot of people many years ago if they would have listened to groups, even like 10 Point, who was already doing the work. So what this administration did that I think was a terrible error was reinvent the wheel.
Okay.
Because we always say,
right.
It's cliche in business.
Right.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
But they reinvented the wheel, and when you reinvent something, it takes time, trial and error, and we've seen that.
Right.
When the administration tried to do some things that they call non-traditional, that all fell apart and was terrible. So they have seen homicides increase year after year after year. And it's not like there weren't leaders who were saying, hey, there's a way to fix this. There's a way to do this better. And they just would not listen.
So what are you hearing from the public? I know you've had a chance, since you have announced your candidacy for mayor. What are you hearing from residents in the city as far as what they believe are some of the major issues that the city's facing that they would like, you to tackle and focus on as the next mayor of Indianapolis?
Well, I'm hearing people say they want change.
They want change. Okay.
We've had 2 terms, almost 2 full terms of this administration, and a lot of people are saying they just want to see a change. People are saying that they want to see downtown vibrant again. Downtown used to be the safest address, or the safest district in the policing district. And now that's changed. The most dangerous address downtown was the city county building, but that was because of how they transported the prisoners and people would come in and do their business. Right. But now that there's the Justice Center, that's different. But it was the safest policing district in Indianapolis, and now I hear all different kind of things happening down there. There's an influx of homeless people downtown, people defecating on the sidewalk, and I was talking to a business owner who said his partner was attacked down on Mass Avenue. They had an office there, got beat up with a baseball bat.
Really?
Yeah, so they finally just moved and left that area. So you're hearing more and more people talk about stories like that. And so when elected mayor, I would like to work with the folks downtown to make sure not only downtown, but all around town, but especially downtown, is reinvigorated and revitalized. It's the economic engine for the state of Indiana.
If you elected mayor, would you be the one running public safety, or who would be the primary person that is the face of public safety if you elected mayor?
I would bring back the public safety director.
Okay, why?
Well, it worked.
Okay.
It worked, and when I was on the merit board, that was part of the whole leadership matrix. You had the public safety director who focused 24/7 on the safety of the county, working with the sheriff and the chief, and then report back to the mayor. I think that it's important if you have a city that has a director of public parks, you have a city that has now a director of diversity, which we've never had before.
Right.
I'm not saying we don't need that, but I think why would you have directors of those areas and not have a director of public safety?
Okay.
Indianapolis used to have a director of education. I think it was the Office of Education and Innovation.
Right.
So in this city, which the second thing in my plan, the James Jackson Peace Plan, is education. So when you don't have a public safety director, you don't have a director of education to work with folks to make sure that we're doing well there, you've struck out on the first 2. And so they're not really priorities. So any mayor coming in should restore at least those 2, but especially the public safety director position.
What can a mayor do since they don't have control over the school system? What do you think the contribution of a mayor can be when it comes to, public education, when it comes to the township schools? What do you think the mayor's role and what do you see, your role being as the mayor of Indianapolis when it comes to education?
Well, you got 11 school districts. The mayor, as I understand it, there's about 50 charter schools. But you've got private schools, you've got online schools. Then, of course, you've got IPS. So there's a lot of different choices that people have with regard to how to educate their children. As mayor, I would make sure that I'm working with all of those school districts, all those educators. I think the mayor is in a position to say, well, what do you need to make sure that Indianapolis schools are the best schools in the nation? If you Google today, top schools in the United States of America, Indianapolis schools don't come up in the top 10. on the top 20.
Okay.
If you Google best schools in Indiana, Indianapolis schools don't come up in the top 10.
Wow.
So as mayor, I would like to see people Google top schools in America, and you see Indianapolis schools in the top 10. And when you Google top schools in Indiana, you'll see Indianapolis schools in the top 10.
You know, the issue of education is certainly, one of the big issues, and the graduation rate, the number of kids that are dropping out of school. I would certainly like to see some kind of alternative setting for kids that maybe are struggling in school for a variety of reasons. They may be behind, they're not proficient at reading and math and stuff, rather than them being suspended or expelled from school, and they're certainly back on the streets. And groups like 10 Point and the police department has to deal with those kids. Yeah.
Yeah, you catch that on the front end.
Yeah.
Real early in preschool.
Okay.
Making sure that by the time the children get from, from preschool into elementary school, that they're already reading.
So there needs to be a greater focus on, preschool,
pre-K,
early education, pre-K. Okay.
Pre-K, kindergarten. When our daycare at our church, and I was talking to Jeff Payne and his daughter. He was telling me, he was thanking me because he interviewed me for a show that he does.
Right.
And he thanked me. He said, well, my daughter, when she got over to the school that she was going to over in Lawrence, that she tested out of first grade and went into second grade.
Wow.
And we were using the ABECA curriculum back then.
Okay.
That was before we went on the path to quality. But our children that would come out of our program, and most of the other programs around town, they were reading.
Okay.
So by the time they got to first grade, by the time they got to kindergarten, they were already reading at a first grade or a second grade level. And many of them were testing out of kindergarten to first grade. Some of them were actually being put in grades higher than that. So making sure that our children all over Indianapolis can read is so critically important.
This is Reverend Charles Harrison with Real Talk, and for those who may be joining us just now on this podcast, my special guest is Reverend James Jackson, who is running for Mayor of Indianapolis. Reverend Jackson, one of the biggest complaints that I hear and concerns is the roads of Indianapolis and the condition of the roads in Indianapolis, and certainly it seems like across the city, there have been years, since many of the roads have been resurfaced or repaired. What would you do as mayor when it comes to that concern that a lot of people have? I've probably had 10 or 12 tires replaced in the last 5 years, and the strut in my Nissan, I had to have it replaced because of the potholes that I've hit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and replacing wheels is expensive too.
Yeah, bent rim. Yeah.
I found some paperwork at home. I was cleaning up my office, and there was some minutes from 2009 on the council, and every counselor on those documents from 2009 were asking for resurfacing of roads, complained about residential streets and what they called interior roads.
Okay.
That had been ignored even up to that point. That's 2009. And those roads have continued, residential streets, interior roads have continued to be ignored. Now, the present administration has put out, I think, neighborhood infrastructure grants, and they've heard that cry too. But in the Joe Hogsett playbook, it's always full court press going into an election year. And so while we have these neighborhood infrastructure grants, where were they 7 years ago?
Okay.
Why are we just now addressing interior roads and residential streets? Well, when someone wants to get reelected, they're going to give you what you want at the last minute. As mayor, I don't think you should do that. I think when you come in, you see the problems, and you start working on those problems right away. 7 years, 8 years was enough time to overcome the majority of these roads and side streets, these what they call interior roads, to have them resurfaced. A lot of these roads don't need to be patched; they need to be snatched,
Right, right, right.
and replaced. And there was only so much money. I was talking to one of the counselors on the other day, and they said each counselor gets one street, I think, per year or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that. So that's not going to get you where you want to be.
No.
There has to be a comprehensive plan to say, well, this is what we need to do. These are all the roads. These are all the streets. Indianapolis is about 361 square miles. We're the 18th largest landmass city in the United States of America, 14th largest city. So there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of wonderful things that could happen here, but you have to have the right leaders in place to make it happen. Not just trying to do it so you can keep your job,
Right.
but doing it because it's the right thing to do. So you have people get out and you find these streets, identify where they are, get the money, and I think it's important that the mayor of Indianapolis be able to work with the state of Indiana, and that has not always been something that the mayors are able to do, at least not this one. And the state can help make sure that we can get the money to fix all of the residential streets and all the interior roads so that people can ride and be safe. I posted on my Facebook a few weeks ago, over there at 30th and Post Road, there was a citizen who made a sign. It looked like a sign from a Western.
Right.
An old Western.
Oh, but
And it said danger, and they stuck it in the pothole.
Wow.
And so now there's some number 2, or they call them ankle breakers in construction, but they're number 2 rock that they've put in there to try and build that up. But we have that in a lot of places in the city.
That's true. Yep, that is true.
Yeah.
That's certainly true. Two more questions for you. I think everybody's excited about, the development that, we're doing downtown, and we need to revitalize the downtown area. Certainly, most of us don't think it has recovered from the riots that we had. But I think there's also concern. Has there been neglect in economic development in the urban core? In many of those neighborhoods, there are food deserts. There's no grocery store. In a lot of those neighborhoods, we don't even have a drugstore. So what kind of economic development needs to be done in the urban core, like we are developing the downtown area?
And there needs to be I think where the mayor's office is concerned, and when I'm elected, I think you bring back that connection, and that's where we get back in my peace plan to community.
Okay.
And you bring government to the people. And one of the ways that the Ballard administration did that was through neighborhood liaisons.
Right.
And that was the connection that you had between the mayor's office and the neighborhood. And I think we need to have something like that. Maybe they do, and they call it something else. I've heard that there's not really anything like that. But then we had Mayor's Night Out.
I have not met with anyone over the last 7 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Like I used to under the Peterson, Ballard, and Goldsmith administration, where those people, were very visible in the community, meeting with all the leaders, so they had a relationship with all the leaders. I haven't seen that the last 7 years.
Yeah, well, this administration has made a lot of cuts in areas like that. When you cut off public safety director, you cut out the director of education, you cut out the neighborhood liaison, and you say, well, we're just going to have a deputy mayor of neighborhoods, which I think that person probably cannot get to everybody. It's a big city. So I think what's happening on the Far East Side, P30, some wonderful economic development there with Ethan Barber and the whole group over there. Oak Tree looks like it's going to really come up here over the next couple of years or so. some wonderful things happening at Marshall.
That's funny about Oak Tree, because I know when we partnered, 10 Point partnered with Ferverent Prayer in 2018, one of the first things I remember, me and the late Reverend Charles Ellis, we were complaining about Oak Tree, that Town and was it Town and Terrace?
Yeah.
Those two places we just said,
Town and Terrace a little tougher.
Yeah, it's a little tougher, I heard, but those are the two places we felt like, boy, if you want to reduce the crime and violence in this city on the far east side, well, you got to address those two areas, those two complexes.
Yeah, and I work with Lakeisha Jackson, Jeff Bennett, who's the chief of staff for the president administration, at least he was, and worked with a lot of other groups to help get that moved, torn down. And now there's some wonderful things that are going to be happening over there.
That's good. That's good news. Well, Reverend Jackson, we have run out of time. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that this is the first of several conversations we can have as you flesh out your plans. I want to come back and have that conversation before the May primary.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. This is Reverend Harrison, and thank you so much for joining me today on Real Talk. Join me next time as I bring more real talk about the real issues that affect our communities here in Indianapolis and across the country. Be sure to follow and subscribe to this podcast and share it on Facebook and Twitter. Before I sign off, I just want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Enjoy your family and friends and stay safe. This is Reverend Harrison. Peace.
This is Real Talk with Reverend Charles Harrison.
Be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast.
And be sure to check out other great podcasts on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Online now at allindianapodcast.com.